This next award is maybe one of the most important one in the society. The Citation for Scientific Excellence is to recognize and celebrate members who cannot fulfill their potential due to illness or death. They're tough awards to introduce, but I guess the way I look at this is that maybe the truest measure of the legacy of your life is by the influence on your friends. And I think this is can be made no clearer than in the 2014 Citation for Excellence for Victoria or Vicky Bertics. Her citation was from no fewer than 22 of the world's preeminent oceanographers. And I think when you see this, you realize just what an incredible impact she's had on people's lives. Her mother Sandy's here to accept the award, but I just wanted to take a few seconds to just say that the thing about it, so there's 22 people, you'd never get 22 scientists to agree on anything, and their opening statement is, the decision to nominate Vicky for the award was an easy one. She's one of the most productive and admired people we've met. So with that in mind, I won't say too much more, but I'd like to, rather than focus on loss, I'd ask that you join me in celebrating somebody's life and celebrating somebody's achievements, their scientific achievements or personal achievements, and how people feel about her. And with that, I'd like you to introduce, excuse me, I'd like to introduce her mother, Sandy Bertics, to accept the award.
Sure, I can get this. Oops, we went too far already. First of all, I'd like to thank ASLO and everyone here. It's an extreme honor. It's not every day you get to stand up in front of a bunch of people and remember your daughter. Excuse me. This is the Vicky most people knew. She worked in the lab. She was a dedicated scientist, a dedicated friend, dedicated colleague. What most people don't know is that she spent most of her career battling cancer. She was always smiling. She never let anything get in her way. She was determined to beat the cancer, even though it was inevitable that the cancer would beat her. But we're here to celebrate her. And I know she'd be kicking me right now, saying, Mom, come on, get going. And so what I want to share with you is how Vicky became the scientist that you know. Vicky's career began with her first scientific paper she wrote as an undergraduate at University of California in Berkeley. And she had the opportunity to do a semester in Moorea, French Polynesia, where she studied a sea star. Of course, Mom and Dad and Aunt Sharon, who was here with me, had to go and visit her while she was there. But you know, her interest in marine biology began long before that sea star in Moorea. It began when she was a child. This is Vicky at 1.5 years. She would pick up every sea star she could get her hands on. She would go to aquariums. I mean, now, we did live in California for the first, when she was between 1.5 and 2 years old, or 3 years old. But basically, she grew up in Wisconsin. But she loved her sea stars. So she went on, and her thesis had to do with sediments off the coast of California. She got her PhD from the University of California, University of Southern California, and did much of her work at the Wrigley Institute there, and been very honored that the Institute has initiated a summer fellowship in her memory. But again, her interest in ocean sediments didn't begin as a graduate student. Began much younger. She was digging up ocean cores way back when. Now, as probably most of you, there's probably been a single person in your life that's led you to your career, and Vicki had that person. She had wonderful mentors all the way through her career, undergraduate, graduate. She was a Humboldt Fellow in Kiel, Germany at GEOMAR, and a postdoctoral fellow at Harvard. But I would say her most important mentor was her father. Her father, who sadly passed away a couple years ago, was the one who took her to any aquarium, the ocean, whatever. He was a scientist. She grew up in a scientific family. My husband was in medicine, and I'm in dairy science. But her father especially, they had a special bond. They were very much alike. They would go on any trips they could. So these are our happier days. Vicki was one of the children, too, that as she was growing up, when you have to write one of those papers, what do you want to be when you grow up? Hers was a marine biologist. She drew orcas on everything. And you know what? She did that her whole life. But the special bond with her father really helped her. She would ask him questions about, okay, Dad, could you critique this paper for me? Or could you, how do you write this word? What he would do is hand her a dictionary and say, look it up. And she'd be mad at him and goes, well, if I knew how to spell it, I wouldn't need a dictionary. And he's like, you need to figure things out. And you know what? Years later, she said to me, after her dad passed away, that helped her so much, making her be independent, making her make decisions, making her do the things there, but yet he was caring. He'd always go back and check, make sure it was right. But that was something very important for her. Oops. Then, got some problems here. Get to the next slide. Now, growing up in Wisconsin, we don't always have the oceans. So the other thing she did, her limnology experiences maybe a little bit more, is fishing. We have lots of streams. She grew up by the water. And she loved going fishing with her dad, her grandfather, and spent many hours there. But then as she got older, she decided that she really did want her degree in marine biology and integrated biology. So she did go to the University of California at Berkeley. And there were some happy times for her there. She began really the interest, where does she want to hone her career? And it was there that she got the chance to go to Moorea, French Polynesia, and study that sea star that she began so long ago. And as she continued, she went to her graduate school at the University of Southern California. She started really getting interested ocean cores and not only just the life of the ocean, but also she was pretty good at some engineering things. She really kind of breached that geobiology area and getting things to work. She was very mechanical, and so she really enjoyed all those things. And she just loved it. But true to her roots, she remained a Packer fan her whole life. And they would always make fun of her, but she wore those Packer hats in those cold rooms all the time. Perhaps one of her greatest joys was her first Alvin dive that she had the opportunity to do when she was a graduate student. That was a dream of her life, and she was fortunate to be able to make several dives, and did a special dive for NSF with some VIPs on board, and that was the one thing that really hurt her the most while she was battling her cancer, was that while she was in treatment, she couldn't do those dives. But she got well enough and was able to do a couple of dives last year before the cancer reoccurred. This is a collage that she carried with her wherever she traveled, and she traveled throughout the world. She lived many different places. But it really shows what was important to her. That little girl with the sea star who got to dive to the bottom of the ocean. And of course, she has the book of whale insults. She always had a sense of humor with her, and whales were very important to her too. She knew she didn't want to necessarily study them, but she admired them so much. So basically, I'd like us and all to remember my little girl who had the opportunity to swim with the whales. And this is a picture of her. She's not the person swimming beneath. This is a humpback whale off the coast of Maria. She's the one taking the picture. So she got to swim with the whales. And also she got to go through lots of places. And if I can close it, get to the last slide here. Oops. Where are we going here? Oops. There she is. She also tried to reach the mountaintops. And what I'd like to encourage all of you is that just live your life every day to the fullest. You don't know how many days you have. And if you see that student, or maybe it's your child, who has a dream, let them go for it. Thank you.